Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Photoshop Quick Tips. I'm your host, Justin Seeley, and in this week's episode we're going to be taking a look at how to create a very cool comic book-like effect on your digital photographs. Now, I've had some emails recently telling me that I'm being a little too CS3 specific here on the podcast. So what we're going to do, we're going to do this two ways this week. I'm going to show you the CS3 technique for this, which involves smart objects and smart filters and complete non-destructive edits to this photo. And then at the end, we'll revert it back and I'll show you how to achieve this same effect the way you would in, say, Photoshop CS2. So what we're going to do first for the CS3 users, we're going to take the background layer of this photograph and we're going to convert it to a smart object. We can do that by right-clicking on the layer and choosing Convert to Smart Object. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add a layer style to this. I'm going to give it a stroke all the way around the edges. I'm going to come up here to the Layer Style icon, choose Stroke from the bottom. That's just off your viewing area there. Move this in where you can see it. I'm going to increase the size of the stroke to 5 pixels. I'm going to change the position to inside. And we're going to change the color to black. Go ahead and click OK. And click OK again. So now we're just kind of getting that little bounding box type effect like you see in the newspapers, all the little squares associated with a comic book photo. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to start running some filters on this. So I'm going to come to the filter menu. First one we're going to run is under the artistic menu, under film grain. So in the film grain dialog box, what we're going to do here is we are going to change grain to 5, highlight area to 0, and intensity, keep that at 10. We're going to click OK. That's just going to add a really grainy, kind of posterized almost effect to your photo. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to come back to the filter menu. We're going to choose this time Pixelate, and we're going to choose Color Halftone. Now, unfortunately, Color Halftone does not give us a live preview of what it's going to look like. So for this particular value right here, you're just going to have to guess based on the size of your photograph. And what I've found is if you have a lower resolution photo, like the one I have here, it's better to keep this setting at either 5 or 6. But if you have a higher resolution photograph, it's okay to go ahead and push that down to 4. Now, you won't be able to go lower than 4. 4 is the minimum value you have to put in this dialog box, but 4 would work for a higher res photo, 5 and 6 for lower res photos. And leave all of these screen angles down here at the bottom just the way they are. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and when I do, you're going to notice that it just gets this really funky halftone dot pattern look to it. And you know, some people might consider that to be the comic book look, but it's really not. What we're going to do now is we're going to take what we've created here and we're going to blend this filter into the one underneath it. And we're going to do that by double clicking the little slider icon next to the smart filter name. That's going to bring up the blending options for that particular smart filter. And what we're going to do, we're going to change the blend mode of this filter to one of these darkening blend modes at the top. Now, it's just going to be a personal choice here on which one you use. Personally, I would stay with either darken or multiply, but you could certainly try some of the other ones as well. I'll show you all of them just to give you kind of an idea of what it looks like. Here's darker color, which is going to be kind of bad on this photograph. Almost looks like a horribly scanned image. Linear burn, that gives you a whole lot of contrast, really accentuates those halftone dots. It's not a bad look, a little too much for me. Color burn, that's going to lighten it up just a little bit more. Multiply, which is my favorite, actually brings back a little bit more detail in the face. And then finally darken, which is really going to lighten up a lot of those shadow areas and things like that. So the darker your photo, I would stick with the top 2 right here if you have a really dark photograph. If you have a lighter photograph, go ahead and experiment with some of these bottom ones. Maybe it'll look okay. For this particular photo, I do think multiply works best though, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that and we'll click OK. And so now we've got that nice halftone dot pattern blended in. We've got this great comic book look. We've got the outline around the outside, and all you have to do at the very end is just throw on some comic book elements, and there you have a really cool, quick and easy comic book effect. And the best part is it's completely non-destructive. I can just simply come in here and I can turn all that off, and we're right back to our original photograph just like that. So that's it for the CS3 version of this particular technique. Now let's go back in and we'll do this as a CS2, CS1, all that kind of stuff. We'll do that version of this technique. What I'm going to do is I'm going to simply come up to the layer menu, choose new and background from layer. That's just going to get me back to a background here to work from. This is the original photo I started with. And what we're going to do first, we're going to start off by creating 2 duplicates of this layer. So just hit Command J or Control J on the PC, hit that twice. It's going to create background copy and background copy 2. What this ensures is that we are non-destructive to the background layer, and now we're just working on these top 2 layers here. So the top layer here, this is going to be your halftone layer. So double click and rename that halftone, and then underneath that is going to be your grain layer, so you can double click and rename that grain if you wanted to. This just helps me keep it straight in my head where I'm going. So I'm going to turn off that layer and only work on the grain layer real quick. We'll come up to filter, we'll go back to artistic, choose film grain. I'll leave those settings the same, click OK. Now we'll come back up, turn the halftone layer back on, filter, pixelate, color halftone, click OK. Now what we're going to do is we are going to change the blend mode of this layer to multiply. As you can see, we get the same type of effect there. Now we're going to go ahead and select both of these layers by shift clicking. I'm going to convert those to a smart object just by choosing convert to smart object after I right clicked or control clicked on those. And then finally we'll add the stroke to this. Choose black, position to inside, increase the size to 5. OK, and there we have the exact same effect. We only wind up with 1 additional layer, and then we turn on our effects at the end, and we have the exact same technique duplicated in a non-CS3 specific way. So that's it for this episode of Photoshop Quick Tips. If you have any questions or comments, as always, you can post them on the blog page at www.photoshopquicktips.com. You can also reach me via my personal blog, where you can send comments, suggestions, tutorial requests. I'd love to hear what you guys would like to see here on the podcast. Send me those at justinseeley.com. Also want to remind everybody that all of my extra training videos, the ones that are for sale, are available at totaltraining.com. They've got a great online training system over there, and I have over 24 hours of recorded content over there. So check that out, totaltraining.com, in DVD and online form. Thanks everybody for watching this episode of the Photoshop Quick Tips podcast. My name is Justin Seeley, and I'll see you next week.